I can feel the winds of change overtaking me, brother. It is a good pain. Something wicked this way comes to the Cliff of Beasts, and it flies on dark wings. Malagor the Crowfather and the Bloodbrute Behemoth Ghorgon are teaming up under the watchful gaze of the Chaos Gods, joined by a beastly Brayherd, eager to prove themselves worthy of their blessings. They'll be squaring off against Luthor Harkon and the Vampire Coast, who might just be out of their depth this far from the open sea. Traditionally, it's been a bad matchup for the Beastmen, but so much has changed over the last few patches, it's kind of hard to know where things stand these days. Luthor is mounted on his Deathstreak Terrorgeist with Power Siphon to make enemy casters miserable, Hornswoggle, and double regen when he's feasting on the living. So he is not an easy target to bring down, and more than that, he is a freakishly strong duelist, made all the stronger by shooting his pistol during duels. So it's not just the Terrorgeist beating up on stuff, he's also getting double DPS essentially, which makes him pretty terrifying in those 1v1 scenarios amongst high-value targets. Behind him, there's plenty of zombie fodder, including bombers, handguns, and halberds, led by a vampire fleet captain with Drown Dead and Invocation of Nehek. Pretty standard kit right there. Overhead, 3 deck dropper pistols, very cost-effective choice against the Beastmen, because they all tend to have low armor, and we've actually gone for 2 Death Guard as well. Hands down, some of the coolest models in the game, and incredible for buzzsawing through chaff quickly, but they suffer terribly from their low model count, low HP, low defense, and lack of a missile block chance. So while they are certainly not useless, they are a risky investment. We'll see if they pay off. What might be less of a risk, though, are the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard, because they at least have ways to mitigate damage if the moment starts getting a little bit too spicy for them. You can pop in rage and receive a 44% ward save for the duration. Not to mention they hard counter Razorgore Herd and any big monsters that try to beat down on the crabs. Crabs being the traditional counter to Beastmen army. So lots of mind games right now. New DLC means new builds and new units as factions test the boundaries of old matchups. And for the Beastmen army, it's Malagor the Dark Omen and his brand spanking new set of wings on display here. 121 speed, he has Flock of Doom and Enfeebling Foe, alongside the icons of Vilification for the extra leadership, which is not a bad idea when you're trying to avoid terror routes, which are all too common against the Vampire Coast. He was already an okay choice, now I'd argue he's a very good one. Difficult lore to shut down. Joined by the Bloodbrute Behemoth, the Ghorgon Regiment of Renown, with an incredible monster hunting stat line and just the kind of creature to take down a rotting Leviathan, traditionally one of the most dangerous units the coast can field against Beastmen. So combine that with a Gorble, and crabs shall not fare well, which is presumably why there are none on the field. They were expecting to see some big scary monsters on the hunt for those big old crabby patties. Back here, Luthor Harkon going straight in, and the goose is loose. We return to the scene of the crime. He is in and amongst some Vanguard deployed Ungor Herd and Raiders. They were a little bit too far forward, not quite enough support. There are Razorgore Herd coming in to help out, but they're in range of the caster as well, and that means Drown Dead pistol summons, getting some great shots, and the bombers closing in for the kill too. So this opening engagement, not gonna be so hot for the Ungor, but they've only really ever existed for one thing and one thing only, to die in droves for the Brayherds. They are pretty much thought as a lesser race amongst the Beastmen, half-breeds as it were, and well, they're being exploded in half by a lot of bombs. Painful start for the Ungor for sure, but I wouldn't call them the anchor of this Beastmen army. Only takes 1 or 2 Raiders shooting a depth guard to take them out of the fight. Flock of Doom going down in the background, and there's another fun little bug. The radius of AoE spells like Flock actually extends past the visible aura. So, as you saw there, the Depth Guard, who were well outside the radius of that spell, still got hit. It's been a buggy patch from Creative Assembly. Great DLC, a lot of fun on that front, but yeah, the overall patch itself, it will need some hot fixing quickly because the game's been in better shape in the past. And there's a lot of stuff like that going around at the moment. I guess we'll see how fast Creative Assembly can get around to it all. Not sure it will be a quick fix because it seems like the majority of the team has moved on to Warhammer 3, which I guess makes some sense. Malagor the Dark Omen flying overhead, and he is way too close at the moment. Momentary lapse in micro. Being hornswoggled, he'll get 1 or 2 bites from the Terrorgeist before being able to disengage. Even when he is slowed, he should be able to escape from Luthor Harkon. Enfeebling Foe will help out there as well. Flock of Doom going down in the background. Malagor took about 1/3 of his HP pool in damage, but he'll be fine, and he's the kind of caster that you can really keep online, even when he's only at like 1/3 health for pretty much the entire game. I mean, you don't need to send him to melee at all. Just keep him on the periphery, cast some spells, be annoying. He'll do exactly what he is supposed to do. So, the bombers getting engaged by Gorbel and Ghorgon and some Goreherd in the front ranks. Deck droppers moving out to the flank to deal with some of those Ungor raiders. Layered defense from the Vampire Coast, as you'd expect. Lots of handguns, lots of pistols, lots of summons, lots of zombies. The dickhands coming in for the block charge, but they will not be able to cut off the avenue of attack, and the piggies are into melee, backed up by yet another Flock of Doom. Malagor's third cast already. Big charge from the barnacle-encrusted Razorgors, just look disgusting. Torn open by the contagion, the pustule is just covering their body, but the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard into melee now, and this is where they will thrive. Massive bonus versus large, fantastic melee stats, good speed, 60 melee attack. Yeah, they're going to shred through those piggies. No problem at all, and that'll be a nice counter and charge. And you would think with the Razorgor, you want to put some pressure on the rear. Might not be a bad idea to hold on to a few of those so you can deal with Luthor Harkon, because they're one of the few things on the Beastmen roster that have the speed and the mass and the damage to fully surround a Terrorgeist and keep it on the ground, give the Ghorgon some time to stomp over, and finish him off for good. That's probably your win condition. If you can catch out Luthor Harkon, get a full surround off on him, and then let the Bloodbrute Behemoth stomp on him. Yeah, once Luthor Harkon's out of the picture, you've got a good shot at taking this battlefield. Depth Guard are mulching everything in the center. They've already busted through one unit of Goreherd, and these ones are trying to pull through to get into the back line. But that's not going to go so well for them. When you pull through like that, your melee defense drops to 0 as soon as you turn your flank and rear. And those Goreherd will receive a mighty spanking from the Blood Knights of the Sea, who are uniquely suited for those kind of fights. As long as they aren't being shot, magicked, or matched up against good AP, they will straight up bully units like Ungor and Goreherd all night long, like Lionel Richie. It can get nasty, the things they can do to unarmored infantry, and we're seeing it here. Already about to hit 100 kills, and we're only a couple minutes into this battle. Deck Dropper still providing that Overwatch fire now into the Bloodbrute Behemoth. That is a fantastic target for them. They should get some good value doing that. Flock of Doom going down. Invocation of the Heck in response on the Depth Guard, who just received a charge from the Razorgor herd. And the Ghorgon is in the rear on top of the handguns, and this is where we see that flanking fire from the Ungor Raiders. Very cheap unit, but a powerful one en masse. When you get 3 or 4 of them firing in on a single target, Depth Guard, Terrorgeist, you name it, it will drop quickly. That's why those Depth Guard felt compelled to pop their Enrage, get that 40% ward save active, and make sure they aren't punished by all those Archer volleys. Vampire Coast got to do something about those Archers on the flanks, but the Ghorgon and the Gorbel represent maybe a more immediate threat to the center of the Vampire Coast army. Those quadruple arms scything their way through hordes of undead. Luthor letting her rip with a supersonic shriek. Ghorgon managed to dodge the worst of its effects, and the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard have stayed on that Ghorgon's ass for the second half of this battle up to this point. Ghorgon is trying desperately to escape, but can't really do so. The Depth Guard have enough speed to catch up to him, and quickly. You're seeing that bonus versus large and armor piercing go to work. The Gorbel and the Ghorgon trying their best desperately to pull away from the infantry. But the Depth Guard are showing no mercy and generating tons of value beating up on those big monsters. A few of the pistol deck droppers going down into melee to tie down the Ungor Raiders. And now it looks like there might be enough Goreherd and meat shields to stuff up the assault from these Bloody Reaver Depth Guard, but the Gorbel and Ghorgon are going back in now, and that might just be their death sentence, at least when it comes to the Gorbel getting bullied by Luthor Harkon. Such a powerful duelist, and even though Enfeebling Foe was active, it was not enough. Gorbel is gone. That will leave the Bloodbrute Behemoth on an island. They've still got a lot of Goreherd, they've still got a lot of Raiders out on the flanks shooting in, and once that Enrage is inactive, then Focus Fire from the Raiders should be able to deal with the Bloody Reavers relatively quickly. But meanwhile, the regular Depth Guard are bulldozing and straight up lawn mowing through all these Ungor herd. And I said there were plenty of meat shields on the field, but they won't last long when almost 70 melee attack is scything through them. So be careful when the Depth Guard are coming for your booty. And they're coming for the Broody right here. The Bloodbrute Behemoth is going to die to their halberds, and he falls. And that might have actually been a pistol shot that took him out. Funny little death animation. And that's a big loss for the Beastmen. Now, as I said at the start of this video, normally the Vampire Coast relies on crabs in this matchup. 2 Rotting Leviathans, throw some of those gunnery mob, the Prometheans on top of that, and it will be difficult for Beastmen to cut through all that massive armor while also dealing with a terror like Luthor overhead. Didn't go for the crabs in this battle, and that meant the Ghorgon didn't quite have the role he wanted to play. He will beat the brakes off of Luthor in a duel, but if he's so focused on that, it opens up space for the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard to get in and cut him down, and that's exactly what happened there. Beastmen are not out of this yet, but they are reeling from the loss of their Gorbel and the loss of their Bloodbrute Behemoth, and the Bloody Reavers are coming in from the flank now. Beastmen should have enough speed to disengage from that fight, but they're running out of infantry to throw into the meat grinder and give their archers some space. Depth Guard don't look like they have any plans on giving them some breathing room here. They're going to continue that chase, maybe all the way to the edges of the map, and that will let Malagor and Luthor continue their duel. Vampire Fleet Captain is left a bit isolated here. Will she be able to defend herself against a handful of Gorherd and Ungor? I think so. Should have enough winds of magic for a Drowned Dead, and barring that, she's still got her Cutlass and decent melee stats, so yeah, those Gorherd and Ungor are breaking off. Meanwhile, Malagor the Crowfather giving chase to the Undead Terror Bat. Might need to be careful there. That could be a bait. Luthor Harkon will certainly beat Malagor with the amount of HP he has left. When he's in melee, he'll get the double regen. That would certainly keep him in the fight long enough to finish off Malagor the Dark Omen, so he realizes it, disengages, and heads somewhere else while the Vampire Coast harries the Ungor Raiders on this side. And I think that's a really good idea. You don't want to allow those archers to come back. I think they represent the biggest threat on the Beastmen side of the field now that the Ghorgon and the Gorbel are dead. Luthor of the Tribe Harkoni, newly empowered by Von Hall's Danse Macabre, giving him plus 25% speed, up to 113 on the maneuverability scale now, and he's got 70 melee attack, poison attacks. Yeah, this will be a one-sided affair for sure. Malagor the Crowfather is a great lord, but he will never beat Luthor Harkon and a Terrorgeist in a straight-up duel, and he paid the price there. He got poisoned, he got slowed, he was on the ground, caught out, and it only took a couple of attacks with Von Hall's Danse Macabre active on him to finish him off for good. I was very impressed with the Depth Guard in this game. Almost 300 kills, 1,500 damage value. Again, they are a risky investment. They are countered by so many units in the current meta, but if they are given time to just buzzsaw their way through low armor infantry, there are a few units in the game that can kill stuff off as quickly as they can. So, impressed with them, impressed with the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard that also got 1,500 damage value from chopping up at the toesies of the Ghorgon, and Luthor Harkon himself, well over 2,000 damage value too. So, I was kind of surprised here actually. The Bloodbrute Behemoth got 2,100 damage value himself. He got some good attacks in on Luthor Harkon. He did great at disrupting the back line and killing off a ton of the handguns as well. Gorbel and him ping-ponging between the range units in the Vampire Coast backfield. And the Razorgore herd opened up some opportunities for those monsters to do the dueling they wanted. So, normally I'd say hold on to one Razorgore herd to counter Luthor Harkon, but they almost got him a couple of times there. They did have the Gorbel and Ghorgon beaten on him for a little bit there. That's why Luthor dropped low. But in the end, it was not quite enough. And I think the Vanguard deployments were perhaps a bit presumptuous in the opening stages. I don't know that it lost the Beastmen the battle there. Losing an Ungor herd and an Ungor raider is generally not going to be a death knell. But having that archer online for a longer period, shooting into the Depth Guard and or Luthor, could have potentially changed the outcome in the end. GG to Achilles, and I'll see you next time. Any Pride, signing out for now.